Hey there. Alright, so today I'm going to be giving a quick demo of the File Generator Pro. So I'm in the editor right now. I've created a fresh project in Unity 2018.4, but this should work in virtually any Unity version. So in the editor over here, I've got the asset store pulled up, and I'll download the asset into the project right now. Great, so now it's downloaded everything. We have the File Generator Pro folder in our Assets folder. So to start using this, we'll notice up at the top we have this Tools tab now. And in that you have the File Generator Pro, and you've got a few options here. You can also, whenever you're in the Assets folder, if you right click, Create, there's also going to be another File Generator Pro. And this will come in handy for if you want to create right into a folder without having to go choose through which one. So we'll show a few demos here to get it all going. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder where we're going to create all of our new test scripts. So just name that test scripts. And so what I want to do here is I'm going to create, first I'm going to create a new interface. So I go over to the menu, new interface, and it takes me directly to the interface creation screen. And as you can see, the destination is test scripts. So it's right where I had the folder selected. So I'll call this first interface my test interface A. Okay, so I want it to be public. I'll just call it my namespace for the namespace. And I don't want to implement or inherit from any other interfaces, so I'll leave that blank. So I can either create and then open the script myself, or I can create and open, and it'll automatically open in my preferred code editor. Okay, so now we see I have my interface right here. So what I'll do real quick is give it a few methods, and then we can go further. Okay, so now I have my 4 methods here. They all have different return values, and what we can do here is we can create a new script class, really, that will implement this interface. So if I jump back into Unity in my test scripts, I'm going to create another file. This time I'm going to create a class. So it opens up me to the create class screen. So I'll call this my custom class. Getting really creative with the names today. I don't want to implement mono behavior, so I'll leave that blank. I'll also have this under my namespace though. And then, so I want to implement my test interface A in this. So in here I can do my test interface A. So you see that it's still not finding it, so I'm missing the namespace. So what I need to do is start off with my namespace dot my test interface A, and now it sees that it's a valid class or invalid interface and no errors. So I would also like to have a default constructor, and I'm creating in the test scripts, so I can create that and open it. And now we can see it's already implemented for me all of these methods from the interface, and I have my own little constructor here. So I've got some to-do statements, and it leaves in the default return values for each return statement. However, maybe I don't want it to always do the default return statements. Maybe I want it to throw an error just in case it gets implemented. So we have a preference for that. So now instead of returning default, I can choose not implemented exception. So if I go back in, create a new class, my other class, don't want mono behavior, leave it in my namespace again, leave a default constructor, and then my namespace dot my test interface A. Okay. I'm going to skip the default imports. And then, so this time I'm just going to browse. I'm going to put it into test scripts. And then create and open. So now it's effectively just implemented the same interface as my custom class here, except now the my other class, instead of having default return statements, it has exception throws. So, say I forget to implement a specific method, now I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, so next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a enum in the file generator. So, enums, they can be pretty useful. So we built a generator for them. So let's come up with something a little more creative this time around. How about, my classmates. Okay, so Joe, Joanne, Bob, Billy, Beth, Kelly, and Karen. Okay, so I'll leave that in my namespace again. Maybe I want to have this serializable so I can store it in some sort of JSON formatted data and pull it back out. So I'll create an open, and here I have it. The whole enumeration value is completely implemented for me. Really, I didn't have to open it. Obviously, I opened it just for demo sakes here, but really, this whole thing is all set as it is, unless I maybe realize I forgot a value. I can toss another one in later if I want, but essentially that enum was just made for me right there after I just put in a little bit of information. So lastly, what I'm going to cover is the batch tool. So sometimes if you're implementing, for instance, like a strategy pattern, or other instances where you might have to implement a lot of the same classes, but not necessarily the same, but they're all implementing the same interfaces or maybe the same superclass. It's a little tedious having to create a new file, fill out all the data, and do it over and over again. So this tries to kind of smooth out that process a little bit. So what we're going to be doing here is creating a whole slew of classes. So I will put it into the my namespace, remove the mono behavior. So for this, I'm going to be implementing the my namespace dot my test interface A. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file here. So before I do that, create a folder, call it my batch classes. Okay, so now that we have that folder, I'm going to browse for it right there, choose that. So I'll call this my batch class A, and then essentially what I can do is I'll just copy and paste a few instances of this and give them some different names. Okay, so now I have 4 classes that I am going to implement here all at once. I'll want them to have default constructors, and maybe just for demo's sake, I want it to be serializable. I do want it to be public classes, and I don't want them to be static or abstract, so I'll leave a default. So with everything here, I'll create, and now in my batch classes folder, I have all of my classes implemented for me. So that is the demo of File Generator Pro. If there's any questions, or if you're confused about any other elements of the generator, feel free to reach out. We've got a support forum and also a support email, and we try to check that as regularly as possible. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see ya.